let's get that recording started. It has been some time, chat. My notes say the last episode of the show was like the end of July. So, yeah, the 30th of July for a GM Tip special. Heck yeah, go me. Life happened to my face repeatedly. Then I got hired by Onyx Path to do some writing. Then I got hired by a couple of other companies to do some writing. I'm not going to tell you about any of it because I don't know what's covered by NDA or not at this point. I'll let you know when it's out, I guess. Sorry about my phone. I'll put that on a padded surface so that doesn't happen again. But standard disclaimer applies. I do not speak for Onyx Path, nor is this project official material. All views and opinions expressed are my own, and this material will be available to buy on the StoryPath Nexus. I'm merely a grateful fan with the platform. Fair warning, I am disabled. I do experience muscle spasms that can affect the muscles of my jaw, my throat, my tongue, which can worsen my natural stammer, or stutter if you prefer, and also lead to a slurring of my speech. I try to, keep it under control as best I can, but there's only so much I can do. It can be disquieting to see, so if a strong attack does occur, I will either end the stream or at least cover the webcam for a few moments to try and get it back under control. Now, this is 85 episodes in, so hopefully there are long-time viewers at some point. You know what's coming. You know what's coming. The best place to keep up with anything Onyx Path related are the Monday meeting notes, and we'll do that canned recap before getting into the main part of the show itself. Unsurprisingly, as the current Kickstarter right now is for Curseborn, Onyx Path's in-house horror role-playing game, there's a lot of discussion of Curseborn and how successful it is being. This is a book I would love to back, however, I'm currently broke because the life of a freelance writer, if you don't have any other income, is extremely inconsistent financially. I'm hoping I get paid at some point before the Curseborn campaign finishes so that I can back it myself, because I believe in the product. From everything that I've seen, I was not involved with the Curseborn project in any way, shape, or form. However, I'm a big fan of StoryPath Ultra and what I've seen of that. And obviously, Onyx Path have a huge pedigree when it comes to horror games. So, if you can afford to support it, please do consider supporting it. There's a lot of Curseborn content on Twitch right now on this very channel. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, that would be twitch.tv/theonyxpath. But there's a whole host of Curseborn programming with actual plays, Matthew's Gentleman Gamer videos, the Pathcast, other content we'll get to in a moment. But Travis somehow managed to find the energy and spoons to do some Curseborn promo at an event where he lives. And they also ran some Scion LARP. So go Travis. Without Travis, a lot of stuff wouldn't happen. But also, please do be aware that IPR, Indie Press Revolution, are having their Halloween sale. And soon will be the Halloween sale on Drive-Thru-RPG. There was some thanks for the Sound survey that was sent out recently for discussing what you want to see in the future of the Sound game line. And Trinity Continuum, which has some bearing on this very season of the show, will be having its chance to shine soon, brackets TM. Mention Curseborn with the tagline, Curseborn is why bad things happen to good people. They're currently active on Kickstarter right now. It's incredibly well funded. It's 400% funded with it, and it's not even a weekend. So there's obviously a desire for that kind of horror role playing. Have I done the LARP? Have I done LARP? Trying to think. I've done very basic LARP. I was supposed to do a Vampire Requiem LARP at some point, but that never happened. Same with the Vampire Masquerade LARP and a Shadowrun LARP. There were a lot of LARP plans at my university role playing club. They just never amounted to anything. But we did do kind of all-day role-playing events, which is the next step down, so sort of. The Scion LARP I'm very interested in, though. Schedule. Immediately before this, it's weird not being the first show on the channel for once. Immediately before this was a Curseborn actual play called In Between Places. All of these times are in Eastern. Then you got me, and then 8 PM we've got the Awkward GM's Beginner's Guide to Curseborn. Is that part 2, Awkward GM? Is that part 2? I think that's part 2. Wednesday, 8 PM Family Feud, also Curseborn. Thursday, Trinity Continuum Anima, Masks in the Mirror, noon Eastern. If you've been watching the Exalted Essence, the Wild Hunters actual play, I believe the story guide for that game is one of my fellow Dragon Blooded. Side note: if you haven't been watching the Exalted Essence, the Wild Hunters actual play, please do. It's every alternate Friday on this channel, and it is a blast. Friday, Warriors of Legend, noon Eastern. They Came from the Cyclops' Cave actual play. Then we've got Sunday, Trinity Continuum Aeon Asia at 5 PM Eastern. And then Monday, Last Train Part 1 of the Curseborn actual play. And Silent at 7 PM. And Silent the Tower at 9 PM. Unsurprisingly, there is a whole host of Curseborn actual plays, launch videos, and explanatory videos linked to on the YouTube, on the media section of the Monday meeting notes. Check all of those out if you have any interest or are intrigued. Also, shout out to Corbin's Is Curseborn the next big RPG video, also linked there, as well as the Beginner's Guide. I assume part 1, as it still is continuing. Part 2, we're covering the Dead and Hungry manuscript. Heck yeah! I have investment in Curseborn. I thought it was the source of bad things. No one's stayed, but I'm sure the source of bad things happening to me. I'm a okay person. You just follow me all over the internet. Then we've got the sales I've mentioned. On sale this week, Curseborn brochure number 3. Curseborn brochure number 3. And the Demigod story guide screen for Scion. And community content assets, which is obviously of more relevance to this show. Not that I'm covering Demigod right now. I still need to do a hero adventure before I get onto the Demigod tier. But we'll get there eventually, I hopefully maybe believe. If you are interested in Redbubble merch, you can now get Scion Demigod Pantheon shirts and journals. They look pretty sweet if you ask me. Not that anyone has, of course. Gamehall Con runs October 17th to 19th, and PAX Unplugged runs December 6th to 8th. As they are linked in the convention section, I can only assume Onyx Path will have some kind of presence there. Last Friday of the month is, as ever, Onyx Path Game Night, and a quick check of the calendar tells me that will be Friday the 25th. It's just checking to see if there's interest investment Curseborn because you want to see a StoryPath Ultra Urban Fantasy game. Onyx Path announced this a few months after I asked that. Talk about good timing. That is fantastic timing. Although, I mean, obviously there's a whole conversation around urban, dark, and horror. Urban fantasy, dark fantasy, and horror. Sorry, because you could probably call Scion urban fantasy. It just depends which end of the scale you're at. Extra StoryPath Ultra settings have been added, were unlocked to stretch goals, and writers have been contracted and sent and unleashed on those. Art direction, Exalted 3rd Edition Alchemicals, M20 Faces of Magic, Curseborn, layout, Trinity Continuum community content, Sound Taste Bit combo, The World Below, Exalted Essence, Pillars of Creation, and Deeds Yet Undone, brackets dirt cheap. Sound God Story Guide screen, Trinity Continuum with Great Power, Mage 20, Victorian Bizarre Tales, and Unusual Characters, proving they came from Classified Jumpstart, indexing Realms of Pugmire. That's going to be good. I press reprints, Scion Origin, Trinity Continuum Core, Exalted 3rd. Those should be arriving at Studio 2. Exalted 3rd Edition Exigence, reviewing quotes. Exalted 3rd Edition Exigence Screen, looking at proofs. Trinity Continuum Ether, reviewing quotes. Trinity Continuum Anima, advances in and signed off on. Trinity Continuum Adventure. What? Anima Terror Surge screen print sending to Studio 2. Exalted 3rd Edition side aerials, index in, awaiting the page XX corrections. Exalted Essence Jumpstart charm cards, awaiting errata input. Jumpstart's awaiting errata input. The charm cards have no note. Realms of Pugmire's and indexing. Side aerials novella awaiting errata for the POD. Scion God reviewing quotes for the traditional printing run. They came from the Cyclops' Cave and Classified. Advances are in have been signed off on. Screens for both of those are being sent to Studio 2 from the printer. Maybe mispronouncing side aerials or side reels. Hey, if you've only read a word and don't know how it's pronounced, that's totally fine. I pronounced it side reels for years. I was reading an Exalted second edition webcomic, and then I was like, wait, it's ethereal? Would it not be sidereal? Trinity Continuing Players Guide, working on XX's Monday morning apparently. Curseborn Game Hall Con card, print to send them out, and the brochure number 3 is available, as I said, this Wednesday. Tomorrow, to date the video, on Drive Through RPG. I'm going to hydrate, have some of my water. I don't know how long today's video is going to be, by the way. I assume you can all hear me properly. I'm sure someone in chat would have mentioned otherwise. I do not know how long today's video is going to be. I have I have an idea of what I want to cover, and I just don't know how long it will take for me to cover all of that. Right, now let's actually face the webcam like a professional streamer and content creator on twitch.tv/the Onyx Path. Yes, I don't know how long it's going to take to cover everything I want to cover today. It may not take the whole thing. So we'll see. Or I might decide to throw my plan out of the window and just, bolt forward with the project. So, what is this season of the show? You can see right next to my face, now creating Rise of the Iron Tyrant. So, on top of all of the live stuff happening, hitting me square in the face, which some of you know more about than others because you're a member of my own Discord community, I also had no idea where to go with this season of the show. This is season 9, by the way. I mentioned it's 85 episodes, but it's season 9, and the Onyx Path still haven't cancelled me. What are they even thinking? I never expected to get this far. I never expected to have the staying power to continue this show beyond the first couple of seasons. I know me. I thought I would lose interest, but hey, there we are. And obviously, past seasons of the show, we've done a couple of game lines, and I've been trying to kind of cover all of the community content platform. Season 9, I don't even know all the deep lore. Exactly. Hey. All of the deep lore is on youtube.com/@. That's, the @ symbol, Comrade Bubbles. All of the past seasons of the show are in playlists. Season 1 and 2 are really rough because they were on my own Twitch channel when I was just getting started and getting things sorted out, figuring out how things worked. So if you do want to watch the old videos, please be aware it's incredibly rough. But hey, if you want to do it, go for it. I can't stop you. Please, give me the views. Stick them on the background while you're doing something. Yes, but as of Highways and Byways, which is available for sale now, Life on the Road. Sorry, I had to rename it. I had at least one product up on every single one of the community content platforms. Now, we'll get back to basics, of course. Community content platform. If you're coming to role-playing games from 5th edition, you may have heard of the DM's Guild, but even kind of assuming less knowledge than that, some role-playing game publishers allow a community content license wherein you can write material and publish it for money, for royalties, on certain websites. A lot of these, most of these, in my experience, are done through Drive Through RPG, and Onyx Path's community content platforms are different. They are Canis Minor, the Sluretian Vault, and the StoryPath Nexus. You may also, if you are a member of the Onyx Path community Discord server, you may see the Storytellers Vault channel. That is for Chronicles of Darkness community content, and that gets all a bit wonky because Onyx Path made the games, but Paradox are the license holders. And there's some weird stuff, but I count Storytellers Vault as part of Onyx Path's umbrella of community content platforms because the World of Darkness has its own thing, so why shouldn't Chronicles? Anyway, I'm getting distracted and stuff of that nature. So I have something on every platform, so I didn't know what to work towards next, pretty much, because I've already done Trinity Continuum, I've done Scion, with StoryPath Nexus being the biggest of the platforms, purely because it has the most game lines to write for. And I wasn't sure where to go. I thought I might return to Scion and do a hero adventure to go along with the Rude Awakening, which was my very first on-stream project that I wrote. Still quite proud of it. It needs some polish, but my plan, whenever I get around to doing the hero adventure is to go back and polish the origin tier adventure. Maybe not do layout in Word this time. Maybe do it in something actually fit for task. And then do it as a bundle, where it's just cheaper to buy the two than buying each separately. But I didn't know what to do. I had no ideas. I'm always noodling away at the Scion Hero adventure as a follow-up to the Rude Awakening, but I haven't got anything good, anything that excites me to write about, and particularly because community content doesn't have the massive budget for marketing. Doesn't have the budget for marketing that official releases get. I mean, I certainly don't have the budget for marketing, and they don't go through the process of, hey, this is in the pipeline for projects. I kind of feel like community content has to have that hook even more obvious. Has to have an even more obvious hook than official releases, because official releases, you're like, yeah, this company's put out good stuff in the past, it's probably going to be cool. Obviously, I can hope that people see my name attached to a product and go, that's going to be a good product, but I can't guarantee that. So I don't yet have anything I'm truly excited to write about for that. I've got scenes that I'd like to see, but nothing coherent, nothing to make it a solid storyline within 3 or 4 scenes. That can be used as the framework to build upon for a campaign chronicle. So I just straight up asked in the Twitch streamers community server that we have, that was showrunners and the cast chairs, and I was like, hey, what game lines don't have as much community? I believe it was like, which game lines have a dearth of community content? Because I'm a writer, and if I don't get to use those $5 words, they just build up in my head until that's all that there is left. Dearth means a lack of, in case anyone was curious and would like to add to their vocabulary or their word list. And I was told Trinity Continuum Adventure. So here we are. Trinity Continuum Adventure is a game in the Trinity Continuum game line. It uses not the StoryPath Ultra, but it uses the StoryPath rule set. It was Trinity Continuum and Scion were, I believe, the first 2 games to use the StoryPath rule set. And unlike my other Trinity Continuum products, Horrors of the Continuum, all the pulp, most pulp, are introduced exactly. If you go onto the StoryPath Nexus and look up my name along with any filter for the Trinity Continuum, you'll find 2 things. 3 things. You will find Horrors of the Continuum, which I wrote on this stream. That is a toolbox of horror mechanics for Trinity Continuum, as it is nominally a sci-fi action game. You will find my Game Jam winning Game Jam entry, Begin Again, as an introductory adventure to Trinity Continuum. And you will also find Trinity Continuum Aberrant, the Horizon Initiative, which was a combined Allegiance and equipment book that I released for when Trinity Continuum Aberrant was unlocked on the StoryPath Nexus. I was fortunate enough to be part of a group of people who were informed ahead of time that it was going to be unlocking on whatever date it unlocked, and did we want to prepare something in advance for it. And I'm proud of all those. But I don't have anything for Adventure. I don't have anything for Aeon or Anima. I think those... Wait, Anima's probably not available on the community... I think Aeon's available on community content platforms. I don't think Anima is. Ignore that. Scratch that. That is not available to the best of my knowledge. I can't bother to check either. I'm rambling. Let us continue. So I was pretty excited for Adventure for a number of reasons. One, you have to say Adventure, because it has an exclamation mark in the title. Anima isn't, but Assassins is. Fantastic, thank you for confirming, Awkward GM. Well, Assassins is a sourcebook, isn't it? Just for the core game line. I'm getting distracted. It's got an exclamation mark in it, because, Adventure! It's pulp, it's set in 1934, so it's the height of pulp literature. And also, the rulebook has a dinosaur on the front. I am a very simple person at heart, and I read Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World at a extremely formative age and decided to make it everyone's problem. So the chance to write something, to make money for writing something that is set in a pulp game where you can both punch Nazis and ride dinosaurs was too good to pass up. And, you know, yes, this may be the Onyx Path Twitch channel, and I probably should speak well of their games, but ignoring that, if this were on my channel and I had twitch.tv/comradebubbles, and I had no prior connection with Onyx Path Publishing, you know, I hadn't worked for them in the past and wasn't hoping to work for them in the future, I'd still be a fan of the game line. Trinity Continuum is a solid sci-fi action game, and reading through the adventure book, like everything is just permeated with the love of the genre, and there's plenty of advice given for storytellers to evoke different subgenres within pulp, which is fantastic. But yeah, I just fixated on the dinosaur. I'll be honest, I like dinosaurs, and punching Nazis is always a thing you should do if you have the option to, because I also watched Indiana Jones at a formative age. I did check the jumpstart so that I wasn't treading on anyone's toes with this adventure. The jumpstart is, as far as I can tell from the blurb, not anything related to what I'm thinking of writing about. So I had, and this morning when I posted in the Trinity Continuum adventure. Well, actually, to be fair, on the Discord server there is no exclamation mark, so I just have to pronounce it Trinity Continuum Adventure. Discord channel. I had roughly no idea what I wanted to do apart from dinosaurs and Nazis, and I kind of have an idea. You'll notice it says Rise of the Iron Tyrant. I've had an idea for maybe like a 3-part adventure to be released in 3 installments, so that you can use a campaign frame, like the backbone for a campaign, and then build off of that to tell your own stories. I may not write them all on stream. I may just do the next 3 seasons of the show on Trinity Continuum Adventures. Trinity Continuum Adventures. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that'll get boring. But hey, who cares what I think, because you're all going to tune out anyway eventually, if you don't like my content or my presentation style. So I wanted to, because this is a show about content creation and writing, and how to write homebrew material and community content for specifically Onyx Path game lines. Although, of course, if you are in chat, please do feel free to ask questions about playing or running games. Try to keep it to Onyx Path games, but because it's their channel. But you know, we'll go with whatever. So as I say, I had no idea what I wanted to write. I had nothing that I was particularly excited to write about in mind, and so I want to do something with this first episode of the show that I don't think I've really done before. So I'm not a huge fan of planning and outlines. I find them usually quite restrictive, but I realize, you know, I do write freelance, and having that outline of what the developer intends is useful. And also, in a recent contract, I was given, like, here's a chunk of words in this chapter. We're not going to give you a breakdown of what we want you to cover, just go wild, we trust you. And it is useful to have some vague idea of what you want to write about in that instance, because you can then, you know, you can assign word count to certain sections. So if you are planning on getting into freelance writing, my joke about it being, the little factoid about it being financially unstable, insecure, sorry, aside, it is an incredibly fulfilling job. It's useful to be able to get into that habit of here's how many words I've got for each section, and to know kind of, and it really only comes through experience, but to know how much you can fit into a certain number of words, or to get a good feel of how many words works best for what topics. That's not the purpose of the show, because you kind of have to learn that yourself, unfortunately. And I know that I'm still at the beginning of my journey, so to speak, with regards to all of that side of things. But I know me. I know that I generally prefer a more organic style of writing. It's like, I'll start writing, I'll get to wherever I'm going with it, and if a scene break happens, that's fine. We'll move on to the next scene, wherever that starts and ends, and it's kind of very organic writing method. But it's not as structured as some people might like, and I do try to provide a wide range of experiences on the, of advice on this show. Sorry. So I'm going to just discuss, outlines and planning and stuff today, and then see what time it is before going into the next part of the adventure. Although, as I say, because I do like to keep these. Nope, I haven't said that before. Never mind. I only thought it. Although I do. Nope. Sorry, that sentence for the third time. I do like to keep these videos quite self-contained with the topics. If you go back to look, I do give them titles relating to the topic of the video. So I would very much like to keep this one to just kind of planning advice. So if you have any questions about that specifically, please do ask them in the Twitch chat. And obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, feel free to ask them in the YouTube comments. I will, if I see them and have the spoons, the mental capacity to reply, I shall. All of which is long-winded way of saying today I just want to focus on planning and outline and best practices around those. Certainly best practices that work for me. And then next show, start writing the adventure. But before we even get to that point, we'll get to extremely core basics of Trinity Continuum adventure, and then I guess just writing practice. So I mentioned Trinity Continuum is a sci-fi action game that uses the StoryPath system. Initial planning phase of a product. How do you define your scope so you aren't too broad or narrow? Aha! A pertinent question that I will answer now, because it means that I don't have to answer it later. For me, obviously this will vary based on person to person, but for me, having a clear idea of what I want to write really helps. I'm just going to use the Game Jam entry for this because it's the most pertinent thing. It's the most recent adventure that I recall writing, anyway, for community content. With scope, obviously, a Game Jam is an outlier because you have a theme, right? You know that whatever you're writing has to match a given thing. If you're just writing for yourself, or if you're writing, an adventure to play at your table with your gaming group, the best advice I can probably give is keep it simple. I know that obviously there's a lot of theory you can go into behind writing and storytelling and the number of acts to have and the number of sessions that you can devote to a certain storyline and things of that nature. But it is so incredibly easy to get too broad in terms of scope. I would always err on the side of being narrow, of having too narrow a scope, mostly because kind of the worst that will happen if your material is too narrow in scope is that it is too focused, it is too specialized. You will still do what you want to do. You'll still explore the themes, the topics, the content, let's say, because that covers adventures and monsters and equipment and everything. You'll still cover what you want to cover, but it may be in too much depth, if that makes sense. If your scope is too broad, the core of what the product is diluted. I know with Horrors of the Continuum, my horror toolbox, when I didn't have a plan for that. In fact, the only thing I've written recently that I really had a plan for was Begin Again. I didn't have a plan for Horrors of the Toolbox, for Horrors of the Continuum, and I believe this is borne out if you go back and rewatch those videos. Because I had a list of types of horror I wanted to emulate, and then I'm pretty sure I went and just added comic horror because I thought it'd be funny. And even while I was writing that, there were other genres of horror that I did consider adding in, but I didn't I didn't want to dilute the core themes too much. And also, because this is community content, I'm not saying you can't make huge supplements. By all means, if that is what you want to do, go ahead and do it. But it's from a purely mercenary standpoint, the more effort, time, and resources you put into a product, the more you theoretically should charge for it. And community content doesn't sell that well. I mean, it's one of those things. Role-playing is a niche hobby, relatively speaking. Within that niche hobby, Onyx Path Publishing is again, relatively speaking, although it's one of the larger ones, niche publisher. And then within that, Onyx Path do a fantastic job of supporting their adventures and putting out official material to support things. So within that, you have your store page to grab people and to get them to buy your book with whatever topic it is. And obviously, if you're charging too much for it, people are going to be turned off. If you're charging not enough for it, which is something I do a lot, because I'm an idiot, really. I do value my own work, but I choose to make the intro adventures pay what you want, because I genuinely believe if I can help people get into the hobby, it will, pay me in the long run. But digression there. I'm just going to wrap the sentence up without reaching a point. The point being that the more work you put into a book, because it's too broad in scope, the more you do realistically have to charge for the community content, which means it's less likely to be bored. There's obviously science and research has been done into price points and how much you should charge and how likely people are to buy products at certain price points. But the TLDR is that community content doesn't make much money. I have probably over... I could check on my portfolio, but I think I'm somewhere around maybe 20 community content products at this point, and I make maybe $50 every 4 months. It's not much. Obviously, the more you put out, the more likely you are to make money, and it does change on a monthly basis because of sales and just interest and things of that nature. So being aware of that definitely helps to limit project scope. As I say, I would always err towards being too narrow, and if given the choice. Ultimately, of course, like a lot of community content writers, I just make things I'm excited about and wish existed so I could buy and use them. I know that because this show is entirely unscripted for obvious reasons, so I do go on digressions and sidetracks. When I'm writing, obviously, you'll notice I'm a lot more focused. That's just, I'm quite absent-minded and scatterbrained. I hop from subject to subject and eventually loop back around to what I was trying to say. But because I do, I live in my head. I know how I speak, how I think, and I know how to deal with that in, hey Tom, how you doing? I know how to deal with that in terms of product, I know how to rein in those impulses, right, when I'm writing, so that everything is on track for the most part. Obviously, I will throw in things that are off track. But you get a good feel of it, really. I know I harp on and on about going back to begin again, and the actual question of initial planning phase, overbroad, how do you define scope so you want too broad or narrow? I harp on and on about the ideal intro game has a low stakes scene, and then has a medium stakes scene where some of the more complex mechanics are explored, and then you end up with an action scene because everyone likes to end on a high note. Really, for an adventure, if it's not part of a longer thing, like a campaign, I don't know why the word escaped me then. That 3-scene structure just works for most things at its core. the thing with adding more scenes in is obviously the more scenes that you add as a writer, the more things you have to keep track of. Corbin! I wouldn't go for fewer than 3 scenes in a written adventure. And I wouldn't go for more than 5 or 6 at a push. I'd stick it to 3, keep it to 3 or 4, depending on your purpose, obviously. But really, it's just getting a good feel for it. And yes, pay what you want, you might get hundreds of freebie sales, and there's always someone who'll put more than they should to support a good product. Exactly. I have a free game up on itch that someone just paid $3 for the other day, which was really nice. I've had loads of free sales of it. I've put it into a bundle or 2, but that's the first actual money I've made on it, and it felt good. The TLDR of the TLDR of the TL... I think we're on 3 TLDRs of this original question. For scope definition. Or not TLDR so much as an alternate, probably more useful answer, is understand the product. Know what you want it to do. There's... I think it was Eddie wrote a blog post for the Onyx Path blog a long time ago at this point about like pitching for business and game lines and things. Most of my products I can summarize into that elevator pitch 1 sentence. If I can't then expand that sentence to just 3 or 4 for a paragraph and still retain the core of the product, it's probably too broad. Or it's too like if it takes more than a paragraph of explanatory stuff, it's too broad. If I can't get to that, it's too narrow. Obviously, that works for me. Different things might work for different people. But if you can't get it down to a sentence for an elevator pitch, it's too broad. Or the explanatory material is more than a paragraph, it's too broad. Or is less than a paragraph, too narrow. Boom. There's your actual, hopefully useful answer. With Begin Again, so I'm going to use that as a practical example. I knew I wanted mechs in Trinity Continuum, and because it was the theme of, New Beginnings, I was very much like mechs colonizing the Earth, and then tacked kaiju on at the end because who doesn't like a kaiju fight? Of course, that product was a bit weird because I threw most of what I've been talking about out the window and did things with mechanics that I wouldn't ordinarily do in an intro adventure. But hey, that's just because I could. And it seemed to work, and people seemed to enjoy it. I'm also in 2 minds whether to have this adventure be pay what you want when I get down to writing it and finishing it, or have it as an actual paid product. Because I could check. I will check right now. I think Begin Again is paid, right? Tap my name into Drive-Thru RPG. It's somewhere down here. Please. Oh, let's pay what you want. Excellent. I can 100% charge for this product and feel at ease with myself because there is a pay what you want title out there for Trinity Continuum. So, looping back through where I was. Trinity Continuum, as I said, is a sci-fi action game, kind of highly evocative of cinematic blockbusters set in the modern day. Most players are talents. Most player characters are talents. They have extremely good luck, or they're extremely skilled at certain things, and the world just kind of works out for them. It uses a D10 pool-based system called the StoryPath system that uses a lot of tags to modify dice rolls, and has a built-in mechanic called complications, where you can still succeed at a roll, but there are consequences to that. As the name implies, the whole game line is a continuum. I've thrown out things like Ether and Aberrant and Eon. Each of the different game lines, apart from one, which I guess I'll briefly mention just for completion's sake. Each of the different game lines is set at a different point along the continuum, and Trinity Continuum Adventure is set in 1934, before the core game, although you do need the Trinity Continuum rulebook to run Adventure. The Trinity Continuum core rulebook contains all of the rules you need, and then all of the different books add setting-specific rules to the game, essentially. The only game announced that is not part of the main continuum, I believe, it was announced at Onyx Path is Steam Wars. And that's kind of I think a tangent is the word they've been using. And that's its own thing, separate to the rest of the continuum. But in Adventure, player characters fall into one of three camps based on the manifestation of their telluric energy. We have Daredevils, which go on to become the talents of the Trinity Continuum core book. We have Stalwarts, which go on to become the Novas of Trinity Continuum Aberrant. And we have Mesmerists, which go on to become the Syads of Trinity Continuum Aeon. So if you have played the core game, Aberrant or Aeon, you'll definitely find parallels in the three playable groups in Adventure. There's obviously a lot of stuff I'm not going into with lore and mechanics here because it's realistically not needed. But that's kind of an overview of what Trinity Continuum Adventure is. I've mentioned before, it's evocative of the pulp genre, and there's plenty of advice given around how to emulate different genres within that, like horror, fantasy, romance, etc. And for the most part, is still quite grounded in reality, in as much as it ever could be. But it does give us some wiggle room in the phenomenon known as strange places, which can include Hollow Earth theory and things of that nature. So I can write about dinosaurs, and I'm going to be happy about that. So that's an overview of the game and kind of where it falls within the game line and the time period, I guess. So how to go about planning a product or a project. I'll probably refer to it as a project. Product is very corporate. How to go about planning a project and beginning work on it. The best advice that I can ever give when it comes to writing, certainly starting writing, is just start. I know that it's not always that easy, but at the end of the day, having any words down on a page is better than having no words down. You can always edit bad material. You can't edit nothing. So even if you've got, like me, this morning, you have no idea what you're going to be doing, always get something down and just let the ideas flow, let the words flow. Even if it's not really related, you'll probably subconsciously come up with something that you can use. The text on screen, by the way, is there just for something to read while I've been talking, rather than having a blank document. I thought it was funny. I just wrote random nonsense as a demonstration of that, and it kind of went somewhere, but it's not some. It gave me an idea, but not something I would use for this project. Dang it, I'm a corporate. You'll see right through me. Nonsense, exactly. So, for real though, as I say, I had some ideas today, so I'm going to approach this the same way that I approach Begin Again. Begin Again, I wanted to do it, setting aside the fact that it was for a game jam and therefore had a theme. I wanted to try something new for myself, something I hadn't done in community content before, and it was, can I write an adventure in 4 sessions, in 4 writing sessions? I know that I can comfortably write 1,500 words in a writing session. I can write technically 2,500 in a writing session, but I feel it after like 2 sessions. So I know that I can write 1,500 words in 1,500 words a writing session over, sustainably, let's say. It's just the last message we received from the real Ryan. You'll never know. Side note, it's going to be really confusing to everyone when I change my name. because I'm thinking of doing that. I'm going to have to keep Ryan as my pen name anyway, so all of the drive-thru RPG stuff doesn't break. Well, it's less that it breaks, more I can't bother to change it. So who knows? Mystery. And then the webcam cuts. 5 seconds, some scuffling on the microphone. 5 seconds later, everything's fine. So yes, I sat down and I wanted to write that in 4 writing sessions. That ignoring editing time, obviously. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if it was 1 scene per writing session? So I set myself the mini challenge of each scene's first draft, at the very least, being 1,500 words. And pretty sure in the second draft there were 1,500 as well. I can't recall. Side note, if you are writing homebrew content and you can afford to hire an editor, please hire an editor. It's hard to edit your own work because you know what you're talking about. If you do, like me, have to go that route because you can't afford to hire an editor, just finish it and put it down, walk away for a month or 2. Begin Again was an oddity because there was a time limit and so I couldn't do that. But it makes it so much easier to edit stuff. That it's, you know, when it's not fresh in your mind. Anyway, I have a blank Word document with the cursor just screaming at me. So for this product, I'm going to attempt the same thing. I'm going to attempt to do 3 scenes of 1,500 words each, and we'll take it from there. If you're trying to get into freelance writing, you will have to obey word counts. Theoretically, you'll have to obey project briefs and actually write the material that you've been contracted to write. So having the discipline to do that is a good skill to foster. I was fortunate enough to be able to go through university, so I know how to write to deadlines. How to write to word counts, sorry. And usually I struggle to meet the deadline, to meet the word count. So we'll see how well that goes this time around. But this will be the first season of the show where I have 2 documents. I will have a project brief and the project. Obviously, it's up to you if you want to include titles in that word count. I probably won't, but we'll take it from there. So, going back to the basics, elevator pitch, and then explanation. Because this is what I talked about earlier. I see chat. I'm looping it all back around. I'm looping it back around to lessons already discussed in the episode. And we've got about 45-ish minutes left. Fantastic, that should be enough time. So, elevator pitch. PCs, functionality. You know, even better. PCs foil Nazi plan to build metal dinosaur. That is an adventure hook right there. It's archetypal, sure. I don't care. It's pulp. That's on brand. I should point out that the core theme of Trinity Kingdom Adventure is hope. And if you want to be true to the themes of the game, your material for adventure should be hopeful. Explanation. PCs encounter a Nazi scientist and their bodyguard on the outside of a strange place. The Nazis have studied the dinosaurs within. Built a robotic Tyrannosaurus Rex. Hence, the Iron Tyrant chat. See what I did there? I thought that was a really stupidly good title for my usual level of wordplay. I believe this should technically be italicized also. Not that anyone's ever going to see this apart from me, but here we are. Well, you obviously are watching this and can therefore see it I assume everything is fine with the stream quality. PCs must make their way through the Nazi camp and stop them building more. That's really it. It's, you know, it's a 3-sentence explanation. Going back to what I said, if you need more than 3 or 4 sentences, which is roughly the length of a paragraph, your product's probably too broad in scope. Depending on the product, obviously, I cannot stress this enough. The bigger the product, the more explanation it will require. But going back to my keep it simple for homebrew, for community content material, please be aware of project of scope creep. There's obviously going to be more to it than this, but for now, this is what I'm working with. Outline. Three scenes are 1,500 words each. Scene 1, Scene 2, Scene 3. This will be to... this is intended as an intro game for Trinity Continuum Adventure. Those are the right headings. So we've got low stakes. Please keyboard work with me. Investigation. And then we've got Nazi punching. I'll just put combat. It'll be easier. So this is obviously, unfortunately, Trinity Continuum, as with all StoryPath games, I believe, has it has 3 different kinds of scenes. You've got your action adventure scenes. I have the wrong rulebook open. Gosh dang it. Where is the core rulebook? There it is. Because I always get these scene names wrong. I always forget the word procedural for some reason. You've got your action adventure scenes, you've got your procedurals, and you've got your intrigue, for your social side of things. It's important for me, at least, to get those 3 scenes into any adventure, really. And you'll know if you do go into freelance writing adventures, I guess specifically, you will need to be able to weave all 3 elements in together. Mostly because if all 3 elements are woven in together, you know that all characters are catered for, really. With an introductory adventure, the idea being not necessarily to teach the game, although you can certainly teach someone the game with this. This probably won't have the page numbers like I included in Begin Again. The idea is obviously to introduce someone to the game. So I feel like if I have 3 scenes, there's no reason not to include the 3 different scene types in the adventure. So just as a recap for people who may not be aware, intrigue is social scenes, procedural is investigations, and action adventure is mostly combat scenes, but anything with high action involved, which again, mostly your combat scenes, but it could also be chase scenes and things of that nature. And obviously most scenes will have elements of each woven through anyway, but I just wanted to, because I have the platform to do so, I will absolutely spotlight one type of scene, use one scene per style, let's say. Although they are defined as scenes in the core rulebook. So this is obviously PC's foil the Nazi plans. Or do they? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Something important to consider when writing any adventure is the adventure entirely self-contained? A lot of times when I've been asked to write an adventure, or not, actually, as the case may be, depending on the publisher, they will ask for story seeds or hooks or plot threads left open-ended so that whoever is using the book can run the material that you have written, can use the material that you've written, let's say, and then use that as a springboard for further stories. This is something that I think I'm good at now, but certainly is a learned skill. I could definitely think of at least one instance where the developer was like, "Hey, can you add more story seeds, please?" The ones you've included aren't as open as we were hoping for. Words to that effect, obviously. That's not an exact quote. So the Nazis follow the plans, or PCs follow the Nazi plans, or do they? PCs investigate the jungle. Because I hate myself, I am going to be using this as a I may be mulling over some dungeon crawling rules that I can include here. Probably entirely optional, might include them in an appendix. But for like hex crawl is the word I was looking for, not dungeon crawl, for hex crawl purposes. Which, if you are unaware of what that is the idea is that it's from old school fantasy role playing. You have a map, an overworld map covered in hexes, and the players move from hex to hex, exploring as they go and discovering what's in each hex and dealing with the problems as they occur. StoryPath, because its focus is very much more on the kind of action side of things, there is scope for exploration, obviously, but the focus is more on the action side of things, so it lends itself more towards montaging exploration sequences. I'm not sure yet, but I might set myself a side goal of, and this is not product creep, because it will project scope creep, sorry, because it will enhance the project. It will not dilute it, and by the definition of me adding something, it's not narrowing it. I may set myself the little task of hex crawl optional rules. Mostly just because I like tinkering with mechanics and things of that nature. I've also opted for American quotes there because for American air quotes there because it's just easier, because I'll be writing this thing. I won't be writing this in American English. I'll be writing it in British English. That's the thing I do. I guess it was just habit. Also because the 2 is closer than the apostrophe to the left side of the keyboard. Anyway, moving on. PCs investigate the jungle, hex crawl optional rules, question mark. So this is a formalization of what I've been running through my head throughout most of the day, since about 10:30 this morning. It's not so much like I knew it was going to be 1,500 words per scene, and now I'm just trying to convey the flow, because I thought it might be helpful for people to see a planning process. I'm not saying this is the only planning process, but see a planning process. Obviously, I'm waffling on top of it and taking a long time to get anywhere. But this is kind of how I would go about planning projects if I habitually planned them. Again, community content I rarely do unless it's for an explicit purpose. But because I have the 3-scene structure from all of my intro adventures, why not just replicate it here? Is it better on the PCs to use the robot instead of getting rid of it? On stable iOS, there will be provision for that, do not worry. There will absolutely be provision for rampaging a robot dinosaur through a Nazi base in the final scene. There was also going to be actions here, affect final combat. And then my idea was to do some... oh god, what's the... Can't think of the actual word for it. Tell the story out of order. So start with a scene and then rewind to the previous scene to explain how you reach that point. So the investigation chronologically happens first, but it's not the first scene that you play through. Limp party leads to explosion and crash. So it's a low stakes scene purely because it's just kind of going around getting to know people, and obviously between streams I will think about kind of what the core information from each scene, how the core information from each scene will be conveyed, and how the players will learn about it. Which probably takes place before scene 1. Whatever they find leads them onto the blimp. So this would be kind of roughly it, really. If this is the most planning I've really ever done. This is more than I did for Begin Again as well. For Begin Again, I knew I just wanted 3 different time periods, and that was more I wrote the first scene, and I went, well, what is? I've got an idea of the overall storyline, and in this instance, the overall storyline is the PCs are in South American jungles, because what goes better with Nazis and dinosaurs in the South American jungles, champ? They're in South American jungles, come across or find or otherwise, uncover a Nazi camp, where research is being done on dinosaurs. Something leads them onto a blimp, probably the research data itself, like they're trying to get it before it escapes. They're trying to get to it and reclaim it before it can be sent to High Command. And then success or fail, regardless of whether that succeeds or fails, the blimp crashes, and they have to then conveniently crashes within a second Nazi base. There'll be a reason for it. I'll figure that out. I'll flesh that out when we get there. But then that's where they've actually been making the robot dinosaur, and that's where you have just a big fight with a robo T-Rex, and it's all fine and dandy. What I have to be wary of is that at this point in time, the word robotic didn't exist as far as I understand it. I'm pretty sure that was the 50s? Cambridge Dictionary, save me now. Learning with Comrade Bubbles. Cambridge Dictionary failed me. Merriam-Webster, save me now. First known use in 1981. Okay. Of or relating to mechanical robots. So I could use the word robotic. Good to know. I thought it was later. Oh, maybe it was robotics I was thinking of. Regardless, moving on. Alternatively, okay, chat. Okay, I've got an idea. Let's write kind of the scene ideas in italics. So ordinarily I wouldn't go this far. I'd just start writing and I'd take it from there and see what ideas occur to me as I was like, right. However, PCs are in the jungle, South American jungle, looking for a Nazi airbase from which spy planes have been taking off. No, let's say from which aircraft have been taking off to explore a strange place. So, no. That doesn't work. My idea doesn't work because, why would there be a well, I guess there could be a soiree among the officers. But then they'd all know each other. No. Better idea. PCs are stranded in the South American jungle, looking for a way out, and discover a temporary airbase from which aircraft tours of a nearby strange place been taking departing from. There we go. I was like, taking off from is weird, but departing from works. PCs are stranded in the South American jungle looking for a way out and discover a temporary airbase from which tours of a nearby strange place have been departing from. What they're doing in the South American jungle, that is a problem for another day. We have a scene concept, why they're in the jungle, and where it will end. They're stranded, it will enter the airbase. PCs must infiltrate a soiree on a blimp, discover the Nazi agents, and take the intelligence they are carrying. At the climax of the scene, something goes wrong with the blimp, and it begins crashing. Yeah, let's just say it crashes. Just leave it to that for now. Two spaces there for some reason. So then we loop back to immediately before that, South American jungle. None of the strange. They uncover enough evidence to deduce that the Nazis are involved somehow. Fantastic. And then why would the blimp crash conveniently on a Nazi base? It doesn't. Please find a map of the jungle. One of the dead Nazis with a secret base marked on it. Would this happen in real life? No. Would this happen in pulp literature? Absolutely it would. The intelligence covers the second iteration and robotic T-Rex designs. And the base, I guess. The intelligence they find on the blimp covers the second iteration of robotic T-Rex designs. You know what? That doesn't make sense there, so we're going to shove that up here. Take the intelligence they're carrying. Let's just have it from the get-go. Hey, you're going to fight a robot T-Rex. Why not? I don't care about that. I don't care about foreshadowing. It's pulp. It punches you in the face. Secret base marked on it. Let's say secret manufacturing base, and I don't have to explain what the base is doing. These must infiltrate the base and shut down the project. Infiltrate, chat. Don't forget to infiltrate your Nazi bases. Obviously, throughout all of this, I will try to be including story seeds and things. But, by and large... Sorry, I got wind. To return to a question that was asked earlier, how to avoid project scope creep, making it too broad or too narrow, having this fit on a single side of A4, I think that's pretty good. Obviously, if you're handwriting it, it'll take more or less space up, depending. But if you can boil the project ideas down to a side of A4, I think you're probably onto a full side of A4. Obviously, you know, it's got some spaces here and there, but it's cohesive. It's theoretically cohesive. I've got an elevator pitch. I've got an explanation. That's just the core of the product. A word count for each scene. That's self-imposed. Obviously, if you're writing your own homebrew content, you don't necessarily have to do that. I just like the consistency of a 1,500 word scene. It's also a nice challenge for myself. This isn't all that will make it into the adventure. Well, sorry. This is everything that will make it into the adventure, but there will also be appendictical material. There will be appendices. If I make any hex crawl rules, they'll probably have their own appendix. I will, as with Begin Again, I'll probably have a list of story guide characters, the important ones at the very least, with any information you need for them. Thinking here of, you know, a Nazi officer. You need some big bad to punch in the face at the end of the adventure. They'll probably have a full write-up at the back of the book. Although, to be fair, it's always awkward for me to flick through a document, so that might just be in the main body of the text. Who knows? But we've got scene outlines. This is the core information of the scene, and just kind of a vibe for the scene. What I'm working towards with it, the end point of the scene, which is really everything you need to know for a project. If you prefer having a plan, is ultimately you need to know how it starts and how it ends. That's really all you do need to know. If you have the word count goal, obviously you need to figure out how you get from point A to point B within the word count. And I'm not saying I'll stick to it, but I will try to. I think that's really it. Because I don't plan that much, I don't have that much more to say about it. As I have said before, I know that some people really benefit from plans, even if they don't realize it themselves. But equally, if you do want to get into freelance writing, having an understanding of how much of your word count you need to assign to certain topics is useful, particularly when you are given carte blanche to write on whatever topics you want to write on within a word count limit. Within a word count, sorry. So even just this exercise of 3 1,500 word scenes is quite useful to get used to that. And it's always one of those things, you'll notice obviously this is all very vague, quite concise. I'd much rather write the material and have word count left over to then embellish the material than exceed the word count halfway through. Again, just keep it simple. Ambition is well and good, and obviously I've been like, hey, I'll just make some hex scroll rules for StoryPath that doesn't natively support them. But for community content, presumably you're writing it for people to buy and to be able to use, and just the simpler the product, the more likely people are to be able to use it. It's the lesson at the end of the day. There's obviously no hard and fast rule around that. That's just my personal vibes, and obviously there's no data supporting it. But hopefully this is somewhere among the waffle you've been able to find some useful information or advice if you are thinking about starting on your community content project journey, or you just want to find a different way of approaching writing community content or homebrew material. Obviously, this is to support the StoryPath Nexus, but pretty much everything I talk about on my show you can apply to homebrew material, because my show started out on my channel with homebrew material before I even considered writing as a career option. So just to recap, projects to the very good question from Awkward GM about defining products to avoid scope. If you can boil it down to a single sentence elevator pitch, I believe the advice given is something like 15 words or fewer. Your project is probably not too broad. If you're struggling to reach that, it's too narrow. Second point, if you then have an explanatory paragraph, and again, this depends on the product or the project, for a community content adventure, or something of the size that I typically write for community content. Obviously, if you want to write something big, go for it. But if you can get it to 3 to 4 sentences, so roughly a paragraph of explanatory material to build on your elevator pitch, that's probably good enough. If you've got too much, if you're like 2, 3, let's say if you're 3 or more paragraphs, you're probably too broad, and if you're struggling to hit that one, you're probably too narrow. Obviously, my explanation here is it's not really that much more information than the elevator pitch, because at its core, this is a very simple, narrow-focused adventure. But I've given myself leeway to increase that scope with the hex crawl rules, and adding some extra value to the supplement beyond just here is an adventure where players get to punch Nazis riding a robot dinosaur. And then once you've got that, obviously once you know the core of your project, you can then start planning the project. If you're doing this for fun or just for general selling purposes, don't feel like you need to limit your word count to each scene. I'm using this as just practice for contract writing as well. I also like the challenge. Sometimes the concision that you need to hit certain word counts is incredibly useful to know how to achieve. I think that any adventure for community content should be 3 or 4 scenes maximum, because any more than that and your financial return on it is probably not going to match the time investment you're making, depending on how much you're charging for the book. For those who are interested but who've not gone through the community content platforms, the royalty is a 50-50 split. You get 50% of whatever you make. Of whatever the product sells for, I should say. Because this is intended as an introductory adventure, however, I will probably assign a cost to it. I'm not sure yet. I haven't quite decided. I probably will if I include the hex crawl rules, or I'll separate those out as a paid supplement and point towards them. I'm following the same principle I followed with all of my other introductory adventures. You have a low stakes scene where nothing can really go wrong. You have an investigatory scene to introduce more mechanics to the game, and then you have a combat scene. Fortunately, as I mentioned, StoryPath has 3 different scene types, so they map quite well onto the 3 different scenes in an introductory adventure. Usually, if social encounters will have lower stakes than any other kind of encounter, then there are built-in investigation rules within the StoryPath system, and then, of course, action adventure. It is an action game. At the end of the day, it has a high emphasis on action, as does the genre that we're emulating with adventure. So there we are. That's why the 3rd scene should always be an action adventure scene. Obviously, it doesn't have to be, but it works as a natural climax to a story, so why wouldn't it be? If you missed the beginning of the stream, as ever, the best place to find information on Onyx Path Publishing and their various goings-on are the Monday meeting notes. Important thing to note right now is that the Curseborn Kickstarter is currently still ongoing. It's got like 3 weeks left. It's over 400% funded, and it's an in-house horror game. A horror role-playing game, I should say. There is a plethora, wow, there's a $5 word for you. There is a plethora of Curseborn content on the channel. There's already been one actual play today. There'll be more Curseborn content later with Awkward GM, doing part 2 of the beginner's guide to Curseborn, and there are more actual plays coming up throughout the week on the Twitch channel, and there'll be more supplementary material on the YouTube channel. Other highlights include, excuse me. There will be a survey coming out soon for Trinity Continuum, wherein you as players, members of the Onyx Path community, will be able to let the developers know what you like and don't like about the Trinity Continuum games. That a Scion 1 was issued recently, and the Trinity Continuum 1 is coming soon. There's too much Curseborn material for me to summarize quickly, but I will tell you that there are 2 more Curseborn actual plays coming up this week, as well as a Trinity Continuum actual play. They came from Cyclops' Cave actual play, and an Aeon actual play, and a Scion actual play for that matter. If you're interested in seeing what material is on this week, please do swing by the Monday meeting notes and scroll down to the Onyx Path Media section, or just stick around for the post roll, where I've done my best to provide what promotional graphics I have access to. There are also links to several Curseborn actual plays that are on YouTube. On sale this Wednesday, we have the Curseborn brochure number 3. We have the Scion Demigod Story Guide screen PDF, and community content assets if you're interested in writing community content with Demigod. We also have, hitting the Redbubble store, Pantheon design journals and t-shirts. If you have, hopefully a quick question, how well does the StoryPath scene structure map to something like a court game where the social interactions can be very high stakes, sometimes even life and death? Oh, absolutely, they can be. I can do a quick breakdown of the social rules. I have the time. So the way that this is a broad overview, obviously, and different tables will engage with different aspects of the rules. But the kind of overview of social rules within StoryPath. You have bonds, which are the relationships between people. They are rated between 1 to 5, and they have a positive or a negative rating, maxing out at platonic or romantic soulmate at positive 5, or nemesis at negative 5. And you have influence, which it's kind of like your social combat mechanics. On top of that, you also have atmosphere, which is a external factor. It's kind of like the mood in the room, so to speak. And that can shift attitude as well. Different bonds have different features and drawbacks to them. And you can also, obviously, because it is a social combat, it is more of a social combat mechanic, or social combat mechanics are included. You can obviously try to manipulate people into doing what you want them to do, or to improve your standing in their eyes, things of that nature. You could quite easily do a court game with StoryPath for sure. Off the top of my head, obviously, with high stakes, it could be if your bond with a character reaches a certain negative rating. If they do have the power to order your imprisonment, they order your imprisonment. Or If it's the other way, if you're going positive, if you want them to do something for you, maybe you need to get them to positive rating to positive 3 before they'll even consider doing what you want them to do. And there's obviously a lot of time play groups will roleplay that out rather than relying on dice rules, but there is every, the mechanics are there for it to be like, hey, you've had some good conversations, you've made progress, I'll allow you a dice roll now to see if you do increase their attitude with you. The thing, obviously, with social intrigues and combat, I'll say social combat to cover a wide variety of things for court games, is that it will very much depend on the table and group playing it. I know some groups that would just elide everything as a dice roll, right? They're not, the focus for them is on the political building side of things, and then the favors, and really delving deep into the favors and how those are completed, rather than having sessions dedicated to political machinations, maybe rolling to see how an attitude or an atmosphere improves at the end of the scene, for example. You could do it. It's not the focus of the game for sure, and you might, if you're coming to it from different games, you might find it little. If you're coming to it from more court game focused stuff, you might find it a little shallow, because that's not really the focus of the game. But you could do it, and there's enough flexibility within it that it shouldn't get too stale. But the StoryPath does benefit from moving between all three scenes quite flexibly. But there's nothing saying you can't have a high stakes social scene, because, as I say, there's bonds, attitude, atmosphere, and different ways of exerting influence over people, with different outcomes depending on if you succeed or you fail, or how you resist them. But it's a good question, well asked. If you have missed the start of this show and would like to see it, you have two options. If you are a subscriber to twitch.tv/the Onyx Path, you can watch it as video on demand as soon as I hit stop streaming. Actually, I'm able to. I think you could rewind it. I'm not entirely sure. I've never tried. Regardless, if you're not a subscriber and wish to be, you can just click the subscribe button. Or if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can link that to your Twitch account to create a Prime Gaming account, which, on top of giving you a whole host of stuff, free games, also gives you one free subscription a month. It's functionally the same as a tier 1 subscription for the channel you gift it to. You get all the benefits, you get the emotes, you get the video on demand access. So what are you waiting for? If you are not a subscriber and do not wish to be for whatever reason, if you wait a week, the video on demand will be public for you to watch. Theoretically, also, it will also be uploaded and made live on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@ComradeBubbles, a link to which is in my link tree, which I have just dropped in the Twitch chat, where you can find past episodes of the show, as well as a whole host of other content. I'm also on Twitch, twitch.tv/ComradeBubbles. I stream mostly video game content, but I'm always happy to talk about role-playing games and to vibe with like-minded people. So if you have enjoyed my show and you like some scatterbrain content from time to time, please do consider dropping me a follow over again at twitch.tv/ComradeBubbles. If you are in the UK and are a tabletop creator, and that's why you're watching the show, is just to get maybe some more ideas that haven't occurred to you before, please do check out uktin.substack.com for a newsletter for the UK Tabletop Industry Network. I think that's everything I wanted to promote right now. So if you have any questions, I'll be around for the post-roll for a few minutes, about 5 or so minutes, to answer any more questions via the medium of text. But thank you so much for watching. Please do come back theoretically in 2 weeks' time, on the 22nd of October, for the next installment of the show, where we'll start with Scene 1, the low-stakes intrigue scene. I may even have a punny name for that scene by the time I reach that stage. Who knows? I don't. But until then, please do stay safe, please do stay healthy, please do stay wholesome. Much love to you all. Goodbye.